as Charles Walker's in front, and he's in for the touchdown. It's Peters for the touchdown. Kansas City sees Sanders make the catch, and Denver at last has found the end zone. On the draw, Charles.
Oh, it's down.
The ball is out. It is picked up by the Broncos' Roby, and he's in the end zone for an unbelievable touchdown.
Those are the sounds and the images from an amazing Thursday night football. Welcome to another Around the NFL podcast. We're starting off a little bit different. I'm Gregg Rosenthal. I'm with Chris Wesseling. We're going to talk about the Thursday night game right off of the top. And Wes, what an amazing game this was. Broncos Chiefs. I heard some people say this was an ugly game, but wasn't it a lot of fun?
I loved it. I have problems with quarterbacks who can't move offenses. But I also have no problem watching two great defenses, and tonight we saw that, and we had the Peyton Manning storyline all game.
I thought it was fascinating throughout the game, and then the ending of it, of course, we really have to start there. This is really one of those games that this is why Peyton Manning is still playing for a moment like this. This is why I get so excited about each one of these games, because we could watch another 500 NFL games. We're not going to see two touchdowns 9 seconds apart in the final minute to win the game, including Peyton Manning on a night where really everyone was saying, oh, his career is ending, and he looked bad for most of it. But when the chips were down for the second straight week, he had his best drive when he absolutely needed it. 80 yards right down the field in less than 2 minutes to tie it up.
It combined two of my favorite things. One, a reminder of why we watch sports. You hit on it a little bit. Because most football games, we've seen it all before. This gave us something new. Like you said, a new ending we haven't seen. That's off the script. And the other thing is an aging player holding off Father Time to show us on the same night where you think about what it takes to get 70,000 passing yards in a career, he shows us he's still got a little something left. Like you said, an uneven night, some eephus pitches that he threw that you
It was awful. That's the thing. Is
5 passes could have been picked. It wasn't a great night for him. But it ends up being, one of his happiest moments.
And I know you wrote about this in your takeaways piece, that the Gary Kubiak offense in Denver really isn't working. They really tried to emphasize the run game and going out of center early in the game, and it was awful. Peyton Manning was getting hit. They're still not picking up the right blitzers on the offensive line. I mean, I've never seen Peyton Manning take this many sacks or get hit that much. They fall down 14-0, and Manning had thrown a pick six at this point. He's playing awful. And immediately after that, they go to shotgun. They have a nice 80-yard drive to end the first half. Charles has a fumble in the red zone. They somehow tie it up at halftime. This was a game the Chiefs should have won so many different times. But in the end, they still had the lead with 2.5 minutes left. And, oh my gosh, shocker, Peyton Manning goes in the hurry-up, and he looks a lot more comfortable. I mean, this is what he's been doing his whole career. Gary Kubiak, listen up.
Yeah, he has to be able to set his feet. We've been saying that over and over again. And he has to get into a rhythm, and he can't do that when he's under center. You have to let him go up-tempo, shotgun, no huddle, do your thing, Peyton Manning. And we saw that on the final drive. We also saw he avoided rookie Marcus Peters, who has been lights out through 2 games.
Oh, my gosh. He has been incredible.
Picked on Jamel Fleming relentlessly on that final drive.
He did, and Demaryius Thomas was a huge factor, making a couple big plays, and Fleming was probably the GOAT for a defense that otherwise looks really good this year. I mean, Justin Houston is playing just as well this year as he did a year ago. My boy, Jay Howard, he's one of my new boys. He had a big night. I've never noticed Jay Howard before, but he was incredible.
They deserved a better fate. 5 turnovers by the Chiefs tonight. That's why they lost.
It's amazing that they were up in that game with 4 turnovers with 2.5 minutes left. Alex Smith, everyone loves him as a game manager until nights like this when, he wasn't really aggressive down the field. He made a couple plays to his tight ends, but he threw 2 killer interceptions. I don't really fault him for the first one. It was just Aqib Talib making an unbelievable play, but I definitely fault him for the second one. It was a red zone interception. That was in the fourth quarter. Another chance for them to take a lead. And Talib's play kind of just reminds me of what I was talking about last week. This Broncos defense has a chance to be so special because they have huge playmakers at every level. Von Miller is one of the best pass rushers in the league. DeMarcus Ware has 9 quarterback hits so far this season. He had 20 all of last season. Sylvester Williams had a big play tonight. Brandon Marshall is the one that caused the fumble that Bradley Roby returned.
Chris Harris had an interception. Talib has an interception. Roby,
it's the best defense in the league, or it could be.
I agree. It's disrespectful to the Seahawks, but the Seahawks have some problems they're working through right now. The Broncos are lights out, and I don't even blame Alex Smith for that reason. This is a very tough defense to go against. Between Flacco and Alex Smith, they've had a 45 quarterback rating against this defense.
That's why this Broncos team remains so fascinating to me, because Manning didn't really answer any questions tonight. He had something to build off with that last drive, just like he did last week. But there's just as many questions about him right now as they were going into it. But their defense is so good that the recipe is there for them to win some games if they just get a little bit better on offense. They've gotten nothing from the running game, very little from Manning, and they're 2-0 against 2 pretty good teams, 2 pretty good defenses.
I think we've seen this week that there are quite a few detractors for Peyton Manning and a lot of defenders, and I think that they can really find common ground on this one issue. If Peyton Manning's going to succeed, if he's going to overcome his own obvious physical limitations, which are there, you can see them, they're there, and a patchwork offensive line, and defense is cheating up to make him throw it beyond 20 yards, he's going to have to do it with his own up-tempo, no-huddle offense, not Gary Kubiak's.
And before we go to the rest of the guys, quickly, this was just a gut punch, absolutely terrible loss for the Chiefs. And Jamal Charles, who, someday we might be talking about him as a possible Hall of Fame candidate. He has 125 yards in this game. He has a touchdown. He's just gliding up and down the field looking good. But just 2 killer fumbles. And I guess just your impressions of the Chiefs and losing this game in the division at home so early.
The first one cost the Chiefs a field goal. The second one was the game-winning touchdown. So Charles cost his team 10 points. And like you said, he was gliding all over it. He looked great. But, yeah, the Chiefs, to me, are the better team.
Woo!
I think they're the better team. They outplayed the Broncos severely tonight, but they had those
They're more balanced. I thought the Broncos would win because they have the most dominant side in this game, and that's their defense.
But the Broncos are 2-0 with the best defense in the league.
There you go. And the Chiefs, their fans have to just feel that, it's a division rival that you feel like no matter what you do right, it's like you still can't beat them. They can't beat these Manning Broncos, and this was their chance. They absolutely should have won this game. They didn't pull it off. It's going to be fun to watch this division. I think it's going to be a 3-team race all season. That's really everything. From one of the better Thursday night games I can remember in recent memory. We've had some good primetime games so far this season. That's why we talked about it for a while. But let's get to the rest of the guys and the rest of the show.
The Around the NFL podcast was overthrown by Peyton Manning.
Welcome back to another edition of the Around the NFL podcast. My name is Dan Hanzus, and I am joined by a room filled with heroes, Marc Sessler, Chris Wesseling, and Gregg Rosenthal. What's up, boys?
Hey, Dan.
What a sweeping gesture that was.
I'm working on that because, it's been a couple of weeks now on camera, and the whole thing is you got to be dynamic, you got to have energy up, and you got to be a leader. Leaders got to lead.
Well, for people listening, Dan is now sweeping his arm movements like we're new cars on The Price is Right.
You are like
a vacuum.
You're like the Rod Roddy to my Bob Barker. I like that.
Who's Rod? I don't even know Rod Roddy.
He's in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame.
Rod Roddy was a flamboyant announcer on that show. He wore.
Greg never stayed home from school and watched 8 game shows in a row.
Price is Right, but I don't remember old Rod.
It was the best thing.
He was the best.
Star. All right, so this is the Around the NFL podcast, yes, and this is our big Thursday preview show where we get into all of the games on Sunday and on Monday. You heard our recap of Thursday Night Football between the Chiefs and the Broncos. So now we will get into all the other games, and we really dig in deep. We a little dollop of mirth, just a dollop, but big time informative info.
Little did you know, Dollop of Mirth, Delaware's first album.
Delaware, for those that are new to the show, was Gregg's emo goth band that he formed in Western Massachusetts in the late 90s.
A goth band is calling
a
their
goth
album
band.
Dollop
It was
of
nothing. It was barely a
ironic.
band at
It's
all.
the 90s, Mark.
I think the first album was How Do You Want It Cooked? Well, we've been over
How do you want to cook it? That's such a ridiculous title. You sold no units, right?
No.
All right.
This band barely existed.
So we're going to go through all the games on Sunday and Monday, set those up. But we also have a guest in the studio for the second week in a row. We're going to have our good friend / colleague. I don't know how close you guys have gotten with him. Me and Andrew are very close now. Andrew Siciliano will be in the studio. And Andrew, of course, hosts the Around the NFL TV show on NFL Network, which you can watch Monday through Friday on at 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Thursday a little earlier, Greg, because of Thursday Night Football.
Oh, yeah, 11 in the morning on the West Coast, 2 o'clock Eastern,
Don't
3
confuse
hours.
people with time zones, Greg.
Well, we're on the West Coast. That should count for something. Andrew, he did 3 hours there. He's coming up here. It's a big day.
Greg wants time zone equality.
Oh, and by the way, we've been on the Around the NFL TV show all week. I don't know if people listening even know that. They're throwing us in there for about a segment a day, and you better watch before they kick us off. Get while the going's good.
It's a good show because they make Andrew stand the whole time. There's no seating anywhere. At one point, he's been throwing it to us, so that's good, right, Mark?
I'm not sure that the man working in the factory in Ohio or Pennsylvania is watching, Around the NFL at 3 p.m. Eastern. Or whenever it's 6
What are you saying?
Well, if this
I
was
don't know.
1963, we'd have to.
I haven't heard a peep from one person I know about being on the show.
Hey, the factory is overseas.
It's not our fault that you're low on friends and family.
I know. I have plenty of friends. They could care less about the sport, apparently.
All right, so there is so much to get to. Mark is going through some things, obviously, and maybe we'll touch on that a little bit more
everyone
later.
I know has reached out to me. They couldn't say enough about the appearance.
How about we talk about some games?
Okay.
Let's do that. And why don't we start with the game of the week, Sunday Night Football, guys. And who loves Sunday Night Football? We all do. And who loves an NFC Championship rematch? We all do. The Seahawks at the Packers. That's the big difference. We are not at, what's the name of the stadium, Wes?
Which stadium? CenturyLink?
Yes, CenturyLink Field. We are at Lambeau Field. And, Wes, I'll start with you. A little sweet revenge, potentially, for the Packers, who really want a measure of payback after what happened.
Well, they blew it last year. They flat out blew it, and the coach got a little,
Tight?
little tight, yeah. And now, at least they have a healthy Aaron Rodgers. So Seahawks are going to have to deal with that. They had a lot of blown coverages last week. Richard Sherman was playing the slot, which you don't really see with Deshaun Shad outside. So this is a different secondary, no Cam Chancellor. And to me, Aaron Rodgers looks like he's in this 1991-92 Michael Jordan zone.
Whoa.
Where he's just trying these layups at the basket where you think he's going in for the dunk and he switches his hand. Aaron Rodgers is doing things like I've never seen on a football field. A two-handed push pass that hits Eddie Lacy in stride.
Oh, that was awesome.
He made 5 throws to touchdown to Cobb, 3 different throws to James Jones, and a back shoulder to Devontae Adams that were sublime. Just you can't make a better throw than that.
To your Jordan point, he has started to at least against the Bears, where he's doing that like MJ shoulder shrug type body language, where the game he's mastered at such a level, the confidence is there. So clearly he's loose and just having fun.
And it shows in the numbers. He hasn't thrown a pick at home since December 2012.
That's
He's
unreal.
absolutely perfect at home. And you also had Deion Bailey up at the line. The Seahawks did last week. Got burned on that winning touchdown by the Rams.
Well, I think he's trying. He's trying different things now because he's got his mind working, his body working, and his chemistry with his receivers working like no other quarterback in the NFL. He's just absurdly confident right now.
I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing that last week things actually went against Rodgers. In theory, very rarely was his first read open. And that's the thing with Rodgers. He's at the point now, he was the best quarterback in the league last week. He had the best performance, the best game. And I threw that out there on Twitter, and people were like, oh no, his fantasy numbers were that. If you watch that game, none of those first reads were open. They were all almost impossible passes, and yet he's still making it happen. And you gotta think, now that his legs, he's got the mobility, again, you have to think they are just fired up. I'm a little worried though, Randall Cobb isn't 100%. The wide receivers aren't getting separation. It wasn't a good running day for them last week. So it's not necessarily a slam dunk that they're going to just go up and down the field.
But Russell Wilson and the Seahawks have never lost to Green Bay.
Well, yeah. That's the weird thing. Every member of Around the NFL.
Very lucky. Very lucky to
that's
do
fine.
so.
But
Two of those games were
it's
almost fluke.
at this point, I feel like we're looking at the Seahawks not into it. And
This is the weird thing. We all picked against the Seattle Seahawks, the back-to-back conference. Greg didn't pick, of course. I don't know why. He's just not picking this year, and it's costing all of us. But we all picked the Packers to win, perhaps a little overconfidence. But I don't know. Am I going to bet against Aaron Rodgers at home right now?
It's not like that. We always get this feedback on Twitter. How could you all do this? It was a coin flip game for me.
Right.
This was the hardest game for me to pick and the last one to pick, but you have to pick someone. So I went with the home team and the quarterback playing at a Michael Jordan level.
These two teams, especially, or whoever's home, I'm picking. It's just the home field advantage is dominant for both.
And here's the problem that the Packers have. Russell Wilson didn't look that good last week because he was under constant duress and he didn't always make the best decisions of when to stay in the pocket. I thought he rushed things. Who's rushing the passer for the Packers? Who is their best defensive lineman right now? According to Bob McGinn, who I trust pretty well, it was probably B.J. Raji last week. And they lose Sam Barrington for the season, who's a good inside linebacker. That means Clay Matthews has to be at inside linebacker even more. Sam Shields had a terrible game last week. It's not like their defense looked very good against the Bears. So the Seahawks could get right. Right, the Seahawks could get right on offense.
They didn't try anything down the field against the Rams because of the Rams' defensive line. I think that will be different this week.
Big uptick in Bob McGinn references on this podcast recently.
That was more. It's been more than one?
I feel like they've been flying around lately. I don't know.
Yeah, Bob's the best.
Let's move on to the next game. Let's head to Sunday, one of the early games where the New England Patriots travel to Orchard Park to face the Bills. Both these teams coming off convincing Week 1 wins. And now, Gregg Rosenthal, you get a real good look at what's going to go on with Buffalo with Tom Brady playing excellent football. Obviously, the Patriots have a ton of confidence. But there's some magic in Buffalo, isn't there?
Well, they've beaten the Patriots. I heard some narrative like, well, can the Bills finally beat the Patriots in Buffalo? Ryan Fitzpatrick beat them to go 3-0 just a few years ago. I think
23 of 26 wins for New England.
Right, I know. They've dominated them. And one of those wins was last Week 17 when they didn't play all their starters. I was really worried about the Patriots' offensive line going into Week 1. They played fine against Pittsburgh. Maybe that was because of the opponent that they protected Brady so well. This is a great test for an offensive line, which is still rotating pieces and playing rookies in the middle. And you got Marcel Darius back and Kyle Williams next to each other. It could be a long day for Brady.
The difference between whatever happened with the Bills before, Brady was 23-3 against the Bills. Now Rex Ryan, who has made a career of obsessing over Bill Belichick and the Patriots. Last 4 Rex Ryan-led teams against the Patriots, those games decided by a grand total of 9 points. He knows how to get close.
How many did he win, though? He's very good at losing close games for Brady. Wow.
But he plays them tough no matter the circumstance, and it doesn't matter how bad the Jets were some of those years. He did find a way to get under Belichick's skin. But Belichick is 12-2 against quarterbacks in their first and second season.
Well, that's a good point because everything went according to script for the Bills last week. They jump out to an early lead, run the ball, limit Tyrod Taylor to about 20 pass attempts. What happens if he gets into a shootout with Tom Brady? Then the mistakes start flying because you're no longer under control. You've got to go toe-to-toe with a great quarterback.
But maybe this is a defense you can get in the shootout against. I don't think this Patriots defense is going to be very good. I think you can run against them, at least at this point. They're not going to have Dominic Easley. I mean, they're playing Chandler Jones at defensive tackle most of the last week. Genio Grissom is at defensive tackle. Alan Brandt. It's like if LaShawn McCoy is healthy, which we don't know if he will be, you would think they'd be able to run.
On Thursday, he suffered some type of setback in practice with his hamstring. So, I mean, it's one of those things, by the way, with hamstrings. It's like, when you think you're ready, you should probably wait another couple of weeks because this now threatens to be something that hampers him all through the season. They need him to be a star player on that offense. I don't care how good Tyrod Taylor's looked so far. McCoy's got to be the engine there.
This is the acid test for Rex Ryan's Bills, in my opinion, because this is the team. If you're in the AFC East and you're Rex Ryan, this is who you have to make a statement against.
You think Rex Ryan is going to take acid before this game?
It might help.
Get the headline out there.
Have you looked at his record with the Jets?
Ken Kesey's on that coaching staff.
By the way, the Sizzler, Marc Sessler, and Connor Orr and Kevin Patra take the Patriots. So the old Zeuser and the mailman are riding hard with the Bills. Let's do this thing. And we move on. Before we move on, I just want to say, by the way, Greg, what's going on with your boy Brady?
What?
Here's what Brady said at his locker this week. He was asked about Donald Trump, I know we don't dip our toes into politics too often around here, but Donald.
He's a reality star trying out for president.
Right. He's also leading. He's the leading Republican guy right now in the race for president for next year. This is the quote. If Brady was asked if Trump could win the election, I hope so. That would be great. there'd be a putting green on the White House lawn. I'm sure of that. You know what I call that, guys?
La Ravil Magnifico.
La Ravil Magnifico, the
Not
great
into that.
reveal, which is when someone says something in casual conversation and immediately, without having to say anything, you know that person is a fool. Tom Brady.
Full is an interesting word.
I mean, listen, you're aligning yourself with the Donald.
Well, they're,
Come on, Greg.
they're golfing buddies. That's all I know about them.
Great
unlike-
quarterback.
I know Wes is with me on this one. A long time ago, I divorced myself from thinking that these athletes are somehow people that I need to look up to and be like. I can appreciate
Aren't
their
you so sophisticated?
I'm just saying I can appreciate their athletic endeavors without thinking they're cool guys or I care about their views. And I don't care if Tom Brady doesn't say another word the rest of his life. Just keep playing football.
Isn't Tom
You
Brady?
shouldn't say as
Isn't
much.
Tom Brady in the same tax bracket as Donald Trump?
Probably.
They're pals.
All right, let's move on to a big NFC tilt. This one on Sunday, a late game. The Dallas Cowboys coming off really what amounts to close to a miracle win over the Giants. Now head to Philadelphia and face the Eagles. Marc Sessler. I call it, and this is just me, the DeMarco Murray game. How about you?
I don't know. He said this morning he could not care less about this matchup.
Do you believe him?
Not at
bullshit.
all. Not at all.
I always
If-
say that.
If he doesn't care about the Cowboys, he cares about showing that he can do more than rush the ball, 8 times for 9 yards? I mean, that was a disastrous showing for him in week 1. I think he wants to come in and show Dallas, you should have signed me, you should have kept me around, you made no effort, you're going to pay
How
for
did
it.
Dallas do running the ball in week 1 against the bad Giants defense?
Less yards than they
So far,
had
no
all
one
last
really looks
season.
like they won this.
Well, I do know someone who doesn't care about this, which is Chip Kelly. I don't think he's going to suddenly give DeMarco Murray the ball a lot more. And
No.
if you looked at their offense last week, you got the sense that DeMarco Murray is a piece of that offense, but he's not necessarily more important piece than Darren Sproles, and he's not that much more of an important piece than Ryan Matthews. He's one of 3.
Well, did that have to do with playing? I mean, was that the matchup potentially?
What?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's game to game. I don't think the plan is to not use DeMarco Murray.
I think they're going to use him, but I don't think they're going to be like, hey, let's feed him the ball and make
He's
Dallas
looking as
successful.
slow as he did last week. That's going to be the plan.
You think
Well,
he really looked that bad?
I thought he looked incredibly slow.
Maybe it's all those 5,000 touches that
He didn't
Dallas
look great,
got.
but I'll also say, I felt like I saw that a lot, even not the end of last year, where he kind of sneaks up on you a little bit. He doesn't look like the fastest guy
I thought
in
he
the world.
looked really explosive from September through the end of November last year, and then you could see he lost his burst, and he hasn't regained it.
And maybe Kelly saw the same thing because they rested him as much as you could during the preseason and during training camp. He sat on the sideline during practices.
Well, this is a great test for this Dallas defense, which we think is going to be better. And overall, I think they played a solid game against the Giants. They were a little unlucky to be down so much defensively. But going into Philadelphia, I think after they had an off game, I mean, couldn't you just see them getting absolutely blitzed in this one?
Well, you're playing a little bit better of a defensive front this time around if you're going to try to move the ball at all.
We believe, by the way, around these
Philly?
parts, we believe in Philly. We all have the Eagles
Well,
winning this game.
You know, we saw Julio Jones just demolish the Eagles secondary. Des Bryant's out. I don't think Terrence Williams and Cole Beasley are going to do what Julio Jones did.
I mean, I would be a little worried about Tony Romo. Who is your most explosive offensive teammate right now? What's the answer? Terrence Williams?
It's not great.
Yeah, I think that's the answer.
That's a bad answer.
Darren McFadden.
That's the wrong answer
Let's-
if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan.
Let's check in on the Monday Night Football game where the New York Football Jets, 1-0, undefeated, baby, head to Indianapolis against the Colts. And here's an interesting game, Wes, because we've talked about this during the week, the idea that the Colts kind of cower against teams that are more physical. And I'm not saying the Jets have a reputation as like brawlers by any stretch, but I can see a Todd Bowles defense giving this team some struggles.
Look, I defend the Colts a lot here and in print. They've got to prove that they're not a pushover against physical teams. And they certainly didn't prove it last week. They have to do it this week. The Jets are physical on offense. They've got Chris Ivory. They've basically got 2 power forwards at wide receiver with Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall. Just post them up in the end zone and let them score. And they've got a really physical defensive front. So I think this is a huge test for the Colts.
Remember a couple of years ago when Indianapolis did seem like a physical team. They knocked out the Niners, which were a much better team back then. They beat the Seahawks as well, if I'm not mistaken. And they took care of business. And it's like now it's like you can run against them. and they can't stop the run, and that's the formula to not win your division.
This could be the most disastrous out-of-division schedule they could have, really, because they're playing the AFC East, the Patriots, who they can never beat, and 3 very physical teams in the Dolphins, Bills, and your Jets, who kind of have been slipping a little bit under the radar, considering how good they looked in Week 1.
Big win over Cleveland.
I'm saying they look good. Ryan Fitzpatrick had, only 5 or 6 quarterbacks at most had a better game than Ryan Fitzpatrick did last week. When he gets going, Ryan Fitzpatrick, if he didn't have that name on his back...
He had a couple of errors that they didn't take advantage of.
He had a couple early, but he played about a perfect game starting midway through the second quarter. He was on fire. He's throwing passes. When he gets hot, he gets going.
Tell Greg the Slack message I sent you.
What's that?
Tell Greg the Slack message I sent you.
I think your Slack message was something along the lines of that you trust Ryan Fitzpatrick more than Peyton Manning right now.
If I had to go through the rest of the season with a quarterback between Ryan Fitzpatrick and Peyton Manning, I'm sorry, but you can do a lot more things with Ryan Fitzpatrick right now.
He was slinging it. They put him in that hurry up. He's like, ooh, I'm back in Chan Gailey's love and embrace. This guy's going to get me some more money and make my career go another 5 years.
I did a little research last week because I was taken with the idea of an old quarterback changing teams, like in his mid-30s. Ryan Fitzpatrick's 32, so we can sneak him under here. But almost every single year in the history of football, there's an old quarterback who changes teams and lifts that team to the playoffs.
Vinny Testaverde, 1998. Jets history, and they're going to make it again.
You might have been right about the Jets being the 10th best team.
Jets ran a more 4 wide receiver set than any team by far last week, and I think that Gailey is changing what this team does.
That is totally different. On some levels, I thought they were the same. They were like running their fullback on short.
They also had like the most running attempts though too, so they're very strange.
And I like Marcus Williams. I like that quarterback, Marcus Williams. They got a nice little player.
Katie, why are the Jets 0-1 on our graphic there? They're 1-0, baby, and they're going to be 2-0 after they defeat the Colts on the road. I'm the only one that thinks that. I am an early believer and a wild homer. It's all true. All right, let's hit up our first. What's more likely? It's one of our favorite games.
What's more likely?
All right, this is based on the games that we've talked about so far. Andrew Luck passes for fewer than 200 yards, or DeMarco Murray rushes for fewer than 50 yards. What's more likely? That is not a great
DeMarco Murray
picture.
rushes for fewer than 50.
Luck.
What did he have, like 8 last week? He's in a timeshare with 2 other running backs who, to me, look much better than he does. I think he looks slow. I think it's a good possibility he's under 50.
I'll go with the same answer because also you got the Colts. Frank Gore, I want to see him play a full game. That didn't happen last week. Their backups don't look that good, and you're playing the Jets' defensive front. You're not going to be able to run the ball. You're going to have to throw.
The Jets' strength is that defensive line. They're going to put pressure on Luck. T.Y. Hilton, probably not playing. He could play, but probably not. We talked about Andre Johnson. We don't really know if he's still Andre Johnson. So I don't know if the Colts are going to bounce back and score a lot of points in this game. And I don't know if Luck's going to have a huge statistical game.
That's a good point on Johnson. I mean, Wes couldn't have been more right when he talked about it last week. It was only 1 game, so you just want to watch and see, but it was not good. I think the more likely answer is DeMarco Murray under 50 yards. Andrew Luck had a terrible game last week for Andrew Luck, and he's still well over 200 yards. They're going to throw it.
All right, let's now welcome into the studio the great Andrew Siciliano. Come on in, buddy.
Wait a minute, this thing's on camera? I would have worn makeup.
There he is.
Hi, guys.
Hey, listen, we hit you last week when you were on the show, Mr. Andrew Siciliano. You were like young, hot uncle look. Now you look like the young, hot uncle, but you came into some money, and you look successful.
I didn't pay for this suit, for the record.
Welcome back to the
I took
podcast.
my makeup off.
Okay.
How are you guys?
What's going on?
Everything's good.
We were watching you today in the Around the NFL show
Thank
on
you.
NFL Network, so the synergy is outrageous right now.
We're synergistic. It's good.
So, yeah, we just went through the first 4 games, did a What's More Likely. Why don't we keep rolling and move forward and do another What's More Likely?
All right, what's more likely? What is it? What do you got?
Well, we'll get to that.
Okay.
We'll get to that. Listen, it's not your show anymore, Andrew.
No. I'm a passenger. I'm in the back seat. You're the Uber driver.
Let's go back to one of the early games Sunday. Early kickoff. The Arizona Cardinals head to Chicago to face the Bears. And, the Bears obviously coming off a game where they fought, Andrew, they fought the Packers pretty well, got beat. The Cardinals look very good with Carson Palmer. Your first thoughts?
A couple of things. Number one, it seemed to me, did you guys get the feel from this? Maybe I heard you guys say it earlier this week that the Bears almost seemed satisfied after the game. Not that losing is ever a good thing, but that everyone thought they were going to be so bad.
Right.
The fact that they were in this game for a while, which is blasphemy in Chicago because it was against the Packers. right? Like tell Ditka and Forrest Gregg that the Bears were just satisfied. I do think they're not going to be nearly as bad as we thought they were.
Really?
I'm not putting them in the playoffs, don't get me wrong. I had Tyrann Mathieu on the show today. Here's what I didn't realize before researching that interview. The Cardinals gave up 400 yards last week to Drew Brees and the Saints. They gave up 283 yards after the catch.
Wow.
I mean, that is
part of that's the function
hard to do.
Part of that's the function of the Saints' offense was all basically passes to the running backs. So they're all close to the line of scrimmage. That's how those plays work. But they weren't getting much downfield.
Which means, what do the Bears do? And what do they love to do?
Matt Forte.
Yeah. And that's something Matthew brought up to me today. That, like, he said it 4 times. Matt Forte, Matt Forte, Matt Forte. We got to go get us some Matt Forte. But they're a different team.
Boy, Matt Forte.
Right, exactly.
Had 100 catches last year.
One of the most underrated guys in the league. And the way I look at Matt Forte, to me, is what Frank Gore was this year on free agency. That's Forte next year. Imagine if he gets stuck with a bad Bears team, that's going to be a bummer. But a good team, he's going to land with a good team next year.
So he's going to have leg cramps next year, week 1.
Well, that possibly could happen as well.
Greatest player in Tulane football history.
Who else is
That's
close?
Tulane.
Ryan Griffin?
Sean King was actually better
Sean
in
King,
college.
right, okay.
In college. Mweldy
I think
Moore had a nice little NFL career.
Mike Tannenbaum was a good tight end.
That's true. Mike Tannenbaum didn't play for the team, but he did.
Okay, that's good.
I would say, Gabe Feldman, of course, our NFL Network legal analyst, best thing to come out of Tulane.
Ouch.
I would say that, the Cardinals we know are the better team. If anyone's looking for a blowout here, I don't think that's this game at all. I think the Bears have a little pride at home, but I'd have a hard time picking against the Cardinals.
I don't know. Cutler's lost, 5 in a row. They haven't scored over 30 points
It's not all
since
Jay Cutler's
2013.
fault.
It's not all
I
his
never
fault.
subscribe to it all starts and ends with Jay Cutler.
I hear that, but it would be nice for once to see Cutler have that victory that we can all be like, oh yeah, that's right. That's the Cutler victory that
And
we
you know
remember.
what? I don't know how this happens. I pulled like a Sessler, like when sometimes you make picks earlier in the week and then you don't know what happened. I picked the Bears to win this game. I'm the only one amongst our group that did.
Hero pick.
And maybe it's because it used to be a hero
That's what a hero pick is. If you go to
stole it
NFL.com, we're
from
keeping
us.
track.
Yeah, but I really think they played decent, I thought, on Sunday, and I'm not sold on the Cardinals. Wasn't in the preseason. One game against the Saints does not tell me that they're going to dominate on the road. I think the Bears are going to be frisky, and they're going to take this one. Close game.
They played decent until Jay Cutler threw a game-clinching interception.
Yeah, it's known to happen.
You can say that the quarterback's not the problem, but I would never pick the Bears in a game as long as.
And
Jay
I think
Cutler's
I've been
playing.
rooting on Carson Palmer to have just one great season where everything works out for him. And this is the best team he's had around him since the 2005 Bengals with Hoosh and Rudy Johnson. And Carson Palmer's looking good. He's got a chance. I don't think it's going to be a great
all preseason that they're not as good as they were last year.
I'm talking about the offensive pieces around him.
right.
I want to see David Johnson get the ball. Because did we get that stat right with the speed? Did you guys
the
see
next
those
gen
numbers?
stat.
Our next gen stat with the chip in David Johnson's shoulder pads.
Right.
His 55-yard game-clinching touchdown when Sean Payton inexplicably punted the ball away was the fastest single run of Week 1. And that guy has hands like a wide receiver. That's what Daniel Jeremiah kept telling us coming out of school. So I would love to see him get more.
You are taking this synergy thing to the next level with the next
all
gen.
beautiful.
We were on the path to the draft for 3 full
Gabe
months.
Feldman got a shout-out minutes ago. Let's move on to the San Francisco 49ers against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, guys, a very nice moment for the Niners after a trying offseason on Monday night, a really nice win against the Vikings. But this feels, I know Le'Veon Bell's not back yet, feels a little buzzsaw right now for San Francisco, having to go to Pittsburgh, Mark, and beat a team that already lost in Week 1. And we all agree that this is a very good Steelers team. Bad news, right?
Well, they're a good team on offense. Their defense, to me, looks like you could make some hay. I think if you're San Francisco, what we saw last week is you want to run the ball with some power. And Colin Kaepernick, I know there's people in here that don't like him. I thought he looked improved last week. And for me, honestly...
Who are the people in here that don't like him?
Chris Wesseling does not like him.
Okay.
And
I think he's hard to watch because...
I think he's very hard to watch.
Sessler's on Team Trent Dilfer.
Here's the quarterbacks I love and here's I don't. I think that he's not in your quarterbacks I love list.
The play action worked for him last week.
I thought that the whole offense looked better than it did last year. And honestly, with Pittsburgh and their secondary, I think that you can make something happen here.
Well, they benched Shamarko Thomas this week, and Will Allen's going to be at safety. Didi told us that today, actually.
That was the experiment we heard about all offseason.
Right.
Benched after 1 week.
Well, look, it happened in Houston too with the quarterback. Shamarko Thomas is just some poor kid from Syracuse trying to make a name for himself. Not that I draw any parallels, but on a short week, to your point about the flying to Pittsburgh spiel, I don't see it happening. Look, I said the Niners. I said on K-Rock Monday here in LA that the Niners are a 4-win team, maybe a 5-win team. They certainly shut me up in game number 1. I think the thing that you take from that game is they played physical football. That offensive line, which was supposed to be a mess, played reasonably well. They were by far the more physical, more prepared team. Now, the Steelers, with a little extra time to prepare for this, I just can't see Pittsburgh losing this game.
It seems blasphemous, but the Steelers are not a physical team anymore.
They're not.
Not in the league.
No. They're not.
And you gave up the best game of Dion Lewis's career. Now you've got Carlos Hyde coming in off of 170, 180 yards and looked great doing it. Powerful, decisive, has a burst there. So I think that's a huge problem. And then you've got a secondary that's just, a patchwork secondary right now in Pittsburgh. So Kaepernick has a chance to have another good game.
Is one of the biggest wastes. I mean, they decided
he probably
quickly,
plays this week.
They decided quickly that he wasn't exactly what they thought he was when he got there. I mean, there's been some whispers and all that sort of stuff. The only thing good about last week for them was Shazier and Jarvis Jones both showed up a little bit. So that is something to be happy about. But this is a very similar matchup. Roethlisberger said it. Similar defense in San Francisco that they have in New England, except there's a lot more talent in San Francisco. So I don't know. I think they could give them a lot of problems.
But tell me this. If it's in the fourth quarter, okay, let's say hypothetically it's a one-score game in the fourth quarter. I'm sorry. I'm taking Ben at home versus Kaepernick on the road.
That's why.
And that's to me is the determining factor.
I was going to say, do you pick the 49ers?
Because what we talked about, or what we haven't talked about, is Pittsburgh's offense, and I do think that Pittsburgh is going to get the job done offensively.
To me, this feels like a blowout.
I don't think that.
Really?
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It would not shock me.
You guys like the Steelers' defense a lot more.
I don't like him at all.
They have to be okay. I'm not sold on the Niners' offense by any stretch, and I think they're going to score 35 points.
I think Pittsburgh is going to be bottom 5 in the league in points given up week to week, and so there's going to be a lot of blowouts.
You're asking their offense to be great without Le'Veon Bell and Martavis Bryant. I don't think they're great right now.
Did D'Angelo not?
No, he
was not Le'Veon Bell.
No, of course he's not Le'Veon Bell.
He absolutely got the job done.
And I realized the middle of that Patriots defense, especially the middle of that line, it's an Autobahn, right? So what's his name? D'Angelo. I actually called what's his name D'Angelo on the air last week. I froze and I said, and starting what's his because I was trying to think of the oldest running back. And I knew it wasn't Frank Gore because with the suspension, D'Angelo started. And I said, Frank Gore's not the oldest this week. What's his name? D'Angelo. Ladies love D'Angelo, by the way. Does he still make albums?
What, the Brown Sugar guy?
Yeah, that guy.
He had an album last year, guys.
He had an album last year.
Thank you, TD.
Okay.
It was the
By the
first
way,
one in like 7 years.
We all picked the Steelers, and you were on K-Rock. I thought in K-Rock in LA, I thought they just play the Chili Peppers on loop 24/7 at all times.
Kevin and Bean.
No commercials.
Buddy. They're still killing it. Monday mornings, Kevin and Bean.
And I'm not an LA guy.
That's how I get
Or a
into
terrestrial
YouTube
radio
shows.
guy, apparently.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. The Cleveland Browns, they are at home. They're home opener against the Tennessee Titans. And, of course, Marcus Mariota, Offensive Player of the Week, took the NFL by storm, beat a bad Bucs team. I said on the Sunday show, I think this Browns team, unfortunately, Mark, or maybe not Mark, we'll get into that
Mark
in a little
quit
bit.
him, I thought.
I know, we'll get into that.
That's not accurate.
The Browns. Actually, let's get into that real
I
quick.
don't like how this played out on air last
I called
week.
you. I have to apologize for calling you a coward.
Well,
that
listen,
was too strong.
That
It's
was
more
strong.
complex than that, and I certainly.
We talked about this, Mark.
Yeah.
And I think what's at play here, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that this is a conscious uncoupling with the Browns after years of a relationship, a loving relationship, but it's also frayed to the point where you needed to separate. And now I feel like I'm coming from the place as a Jets fan and a long-suffering fan as well, where I love both of you. I want to see you back together, and I hope it all works out. But then you got the devil on the shoulder, Wes. He wants you to play the field.
The Browns have been sneaking out at night on you. They've been stepping out, and I think it's time you tell them to, basically cut the fish loose.
I think the Browns have let themselves go,
You're saying that,
and Mark's no longer attracted to them.
they've been leaving at like they're Manziel and Justin Gilbert. They've been sneaking out. Like what?
Yes, they've been sneaking out.
They're not
can't
sexy
get
enough to
anything
sneak
right.
out.
Yeah, what is
Yeah,
there?
who are they
like
getting? Who are they getting
like
action
about
from?
this team? Seriously, on the field, what do they have? What is their
They
calling
should
card?
have the parts for a defense. Granted, other than Carlos Dansby at linebacker, Although, what's his name? Barkevius did make a play on a tip pass over the middle last.
He also let them get
Patton
around
also
the edge
noticed
a few
that
times.
he missed a bunch of plays too.
Look, Barkevius Mingo, the 4 of us could set the edge better. We agree?
I
Good
couldn't
draft
do
pick.
anything
Okay.
on a football field.
But anyway, I hope you get back together. I love the two of you together as a couple, and I hope it happens.
But listen, the world is strange. We don't know what's going to happen, but I mean,
But you're still talking to each other.
We're talking. We're talking.
As you
You watched
say
the
that,
game this week.
Rosenthal
I watched
talked
it
the
closely.
Game. Yeah. Someone talked the game.
As you say that, Wes is texting Mark, "Hey, let's go meet other teams out at the Whaler today."
Hey, I think the
what
Titans
this
might be
is.
down in Marina Del Rey.
Let's talk about the game. The Titans, Mariota, and Greg, I'll start with you on this one. Do you expect to see another Mariota show where literally the football
Cognoscenti.
starts doing backflips all around the planet?
No, I think Mike Pettin will have a plan to make him struggle a little bit, show him some different things. I mean, he's not going to play such a vanilla, poorly talented defense as Tampa Bay this week, and it'll be a tougher game for him. I still like the Titans better as a team in general, and I think if they can go get this win out there, I think it's time to start thinking, team of ATL. Let's not wait until they're 5-1 or anything. Let's do it early.
I'm still a Niners
Let's remember
guy, but
something.
okay.
This
Niners
Browns
or
team
Titans.
gave up 28 points to last year's Titans. All right, with Clipboard
Titans.
Jesus running the operation. So now you have Mariota coming in, and I have to ask, how are the Browns better this season than last? You don't have anything going on at tight end, and as Greg and I were talking about, you're throwing balls to Jim Dre and Gary Barnage.
It was a huge
right?
part of their game plan.
It's too much of a
Barnage,
part of it.
Hausler, and Dre, and I'm thinking this isn't going to work.
Their offensive line, which we thought was top 5, one of the best in the league, was manhandled by the Jets. Their running backs couldn't get anything going. So they need to be a completely different team than what we saw last week.
I think a couple of things. Number one, when McCown got hurt, I hate to say you throw the whole game plan out, but obviously everything changed. You had a quarterback that had not really practiced for 2 weeks with his mystery sore elbow. You throw him into it. He throws the touchdown pass to Benjamin. Yay, everyone's happy. They're going to be okay, but clearly they're not. The Jets brought the pressure. They shut the run game down. They have no one with separation. Even if Dwayne Bowe had played, no one's getting separation. You have a bunch of wide receivers, Greg, that are my size and your size on that team. And Taylor Gabriel can make some plays, but when you're dropping, 4th down outs when you have the yardage, that's not inspiring confidence for anybody. You guys are overlooking the Terrence West comes home factor.
Right. Revenge.
There will be signs and there may be a parade. The Browns will play better. I think the biggest condemnation of what Manziel did last week, and again, he did show signs of improvement.
He absolutely did.
Not enough to say, I'm ready to give you the keys. And Mike Pettin made that clear today when he said that if McCown is cleared on Friday to practice and he gets through practice without any headaches, he's going to start.
Right. Well,
with
Manziel's
one
not
day.
healthy.
Manziel had 3 straight turnovers in
3 straight turnovers. By the way, not to make excuses here. He's got to protect the ball better. But there's one where he scrambles for 25 yards. They call it back on an Alex Mack hold. There was a blatant forearm to the helmet there on the slide. He went feet first. It was a missed call. You saw it, right, Wes?
Yeah.
It was a missed call. You throw that flag. There's no turnover. They're across midfield. It's not as lopsided. They still lose the game.
Agree.
Okay?
Both of these-
But he still fumbled on the next play.
Both these quarterbacks are going to play a lot this year because
Yeah.
if RG3 is the most careless quarterback in the NFL with his body, McCown and Manziel are 2 and 3.
Absolutely. And Manziel's not big enough to protect the... Look, he can protect the football, but he is so small.
He's tiny.
He's tiny.
Yeah.
And for anyone who's ever stood on the field next to him, he's not a big dude at all. So when he does take that hit, that ball's coming out.
The one thing, though, McCown, that first drive against the Jets, 17 plays, ate up about 10 minutes
He
off
looked
the
good.
clock. That's what they wanted to do.
And that's what they did in the preseason a couple of times, too.
Against the Bucks.
But he also
Right.
took 2 massive shots
Yes.
in that one drive. So it's like
Which he's always done
He's
this.
never
Well,
gonna right.
A lot of passionate talk about the Browns. I'm
Not
just saying.
One last point. The Bucks game, the preseason game, right? McCown took 3 massive hits in that preseason game.
I thought the same thing.
Massive.
I was off the McCown train right about then.
Yeah.
And
He just doesn't take care of his body.
That was one of the worst shots I've seen. The shot that he got knocked out on in week 1 was a nasty headshot he took.
Well, Pettin said to him, because they were going to have the Bears in the 4th and final preseason game, and they were asked after the game, hey, will you play your starters next week? Maybe, I don't know yet. Will you play Pettin? No way. Why? I'm sorry, will you play McCown? Well, because today he was playing one of his former teams, and he tried to go superhero, and I'm paraphrasing. There's no way I'm playing him against one of his other former teams next week.
All right, let's move on. We all took the Titans. Yes.
All this Mariota talk, Kendall Wright is going to be Randall Cobb in this offense.
He looked amazing.
He's been underutilized because their quarterbacks have been so bad for the past couple of years. He's going to be Randall Cobb for them.
Browns win this game.
Ooh. Saucy.
Wow.
That'd be a hero pick if he was in that.
If we had hero.
We're talking about two teams that one of them picked number 2 overall.
One of
the
them
other
won 2 games last year.
Yeah, so this is not a radical concept.
All right, let's move on. The St. Louis Rams, fresh off beating the Seattle Seahawks, travel to Washington to face the Redskins. Andrew, this is a game where we want to see Nick Foles and St. Louis Rams roll up some wins, especially against teams they can beat before we take them seriously. This team has been always around 500. How about a fast start so people get excited about the Rams?
They were 1-3, I believe, in 3 of the last 4 years.
Not going to do it.
The gate. So this is as big a win as that was for this team last week, and it was massive. This is the real test because it's a road game. It's a game against a team where, on paper, you have more talent. You should win this game. And everyone wants to jump on the Rams bandwagon now because of what they did last week. Deservedly so.
Greg's driving that thing.
Now go on the road.
I'm excited. If I was any more excited, I would have to go to the hospital or something.
Go on the road and win this game. Jeff Fisher has said he is not going to troll the Redskins with his captains. He is going to go out there with his traditional captains. And we see if they can get after Kirk Cousins. By the way, he was not.
He was trolling.
Okay, but so to me, it was him backing up his good friend Mike Shanahan.
Okay.
That's what that was.
Okay.
That was him saying,
fine,
hey,
I liked it.
You fired Mike Shanahan. Would you have fired him if he had all this? I think that's what that was.
That's the only reason that deal went down.
Michael Brockers. I mean, if people don't know, he sent out all his captains last time that came in.
Brockers and Ogletree and Stedman Bailey
and those guys aren't necessarily superstars, but they're a big factor.
Wes, you took the Redskins to win this game. I like that, saucy.
They played pretty tough against the Dolphins, and
does that speak to the Dolphins or the Redskins?
I think the Redskins' defensive front is much improved from last year. Their defensive line shut Lamar Miller down in the first half, and I think their linebackers played pretty well, too. I think their defense is much improved, and I think Kirk Cousins will make mistakes but can move an offense. We've seen it in almost every start he's made, that he will move an offense better than RG3 did the last 2 years.
And when he does at least, 1.2, how many turnovers a game? Then the Rams have to capitalize,
he's going to turn the ball over.
That's where Detective Frank Signetti, PI, is on the case.
Who called a good game last week.
He called a great game.
He was
creative. He basically schemed to get wide receivers open for Nick Foles throughout the game.
All I could think was they lose that game with Brian Schottenheimer.
I liked Benny Cunningham in that game.
You won't. I don't think you see him much in this game.
In his spot played 122 total yards, and I thought he looked faster than I realized.
You know the crazy thing about him too, overlooked. He led the NFC in kickoff returns last year. That guy's a snowplow. He doesn't move left or right. He just moves forward.
Yeah.
And yet he averaged 27 point whatever a kickoff return last year. I think you could
it's
see
a great asset for a kick returner just moving forward.
Exactly. Back doing that because I think Trey Mason starts this game.
How about behind the glass, another game of What's More Likely?
Shortly. We'll have another game of What's More Likely. We're getting that ready, but you guys can keep talking.
We're ready to go. That's a look behind the glass.
I'll take the Rams,
will
by
be
the
ready
way.
for this segment?
Who did we all take in this?
I'm taking the Rams.
I'll tell you, Andrew's taking the Rams, as did Mark, Dan, Connor.
Everyone did.
No, Patra also took the Redskins.
Patra ruining my hero pick.
Well, there are no heroes.
Oh, if there were.
By the way, just so you know, Andrew, we used to have this fun game called Hero Picks where if only one of us picked a game, picked a team in a matchup, you would have to defend your hero. We had a nice little fun sound drop.
I like the old NBC show Hero, like with that little dude in the promo.
Yeah, that little guy, we brought him in here a couple times. But then for some reason, and he still hasn't explained himself,
That's not true.
Greg no longer does picks. And he will. I think before we bring back
Seinfeld, I choose not to run.
Yes,
I'm not against Greg bringing back the hero picks.
You got to bring back the hero picks.
I think we all deserve an explanation once and for all.
Are you above
Why
it?
you quit?
Are you above
I'm
it?
not above it. It was causing me more. It was making me enjoy the games on Sunday less, and that is basically admitting my own craziness. But I don't care. I decided well into the season. There was a few factors. I start rooting for the teams you pick for instead of just rooting for the teams you want to root for or just enjoying the games. Also, there was a lot of, backroom stuff. Sometimes people, he changed his pick late. A lot of,
Wow.
Why did you care so
the
much?
tables on you?
Well, it was.
No, I don't know.
Getting
if I had
texts
anything to
on
do with
Christmas
this.
Eve. Hey, this guy changed his
Greg
pick.
is not wrong
leave me
about that
alone.
part of it.
Leave me alone.
What does that have to do with anything? Why would
just
you?
like, I don't
Why
wanna
would
be a
you
part of
quit
it.
picks?
You know what? I respect his answer. You know why? Because it's the artificial.
That makes one of us.
Artificial anxiety, right?
Yeah,
It's
I
what
don't know.
you don't like.
It's a
Creative.
mania.
Well, look.
Sounds like a weakness.
Yeah, it's totally a weakness.
People know that I'm a Browns fan deep down inside. That's why I was raised. It wears off over the years when you see
you
how the
just did
sausage
it.
is made.
You just stepped
I
on
was
what's
raised
more likely.
no.
Now
I
we
was
know the
raised a
answer.
Browns fan. Oh, was that one of the questions?
TD, do you ready?
T, can we please do the what's more likely?
My point is that when you with fantasy, you're picking games, you're creating this artificial anxiety where I
Yes.
sit in front of my
Yeah,
TV
that's true.
or stand in front of my TV.
I love
screaming
football.
and
Isn't
yelling.
I
that
wanna
fantasy
do-
football in a nutshell?
I want to just enjoy it, watch the games, root for what I want to root for.
How much more filibustering do we need here, TD?
TD, let's do it.
Guys, we can go ahead and do it. We don't have our artwork because now
Oh, who
That's
needs our
fine.
artwork?
Let's go. Go ahead.
Let's go ahead and do it, guys. Who needs any artwork? Let's roll.
All right, Andrew.
Okay. Yes.
What's more likely, Andrew publicly reveals his Browns love, or Mark returns to the fold?
Well,
We got our answer.
because I already did it, I'm not afraid to admit it. Look, we all grew up as fans of the team.
Okay, I didn't know if you advertised.
No, I don't advertise it per se. I do a weekly radio thing in Cleveland, on the phone on their flagship station, so they know it there and they advertise it. I mean, not like sell ads, but I mean they say it there. I don't mind saying it. I was raised outside Washington D.C., but my father's from Cleveland, so he corrupted my brother and me. My brother's a Browns season ticket holder. He flies from Dulles to Cleveland.
Wow.
Not 8 times. That's insane.
Right.
But he does a couple. He'll be there this week.
As insane as Greg quitting on his pickies?
No, he didn't just quit on the picks. He quit on us.
I didn't quit on
That's
anything.
important.
You guys should be happy. I'm giving you someone else a chance to win one of
I
these
was
years.
dumb enough to pick the Brown. I can't blame a family member. I picked them out of the blue on my own in 6th
You are-
grade.
you are on
But I'm
grade.
doing Cleveland
Yeah.
radio tomorrow too. So you know what?
What's that?
This race is tighter than you think.
So you're back in.
I didn't say anything. I just said it's a tight race.
Oh, he's
This is
back
like-
in. Hey, by the way, he's not writing any film room think pieces on the Rams quarterback. He's doing it on Johnny Manziel on his day off.
This
You know
is
what I'm
this
saying?
you doing this radio. This is the equivalent of you having an all-night phone call with the Browns. Like, we stayed
yeah,
on the phone for hours and reconnected.
Wait a minute.
He's
is what it
sexting
is.
the Browns.
But it also brings out good work. His piece, I'm going to defend you here. His piece on Mike Pettin in training camp.
It's terrific.
Fantastic.
Sir, yeah.
Johnny Manziel piece
Oh.
this week. I recommend everyone check it out. ATL Film Room. It was good stuff.
It's not like it's the
here's-
only film thing I'll do all year. I mean, maybe.
Here's what else to check out. Around the NFL on NFL Network, 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern on 11 p.m. a.m.
2 Eastern,
So close.
2 Eastern, 11 Pacific.
Yeah.
On Thursdays on game day. And my film piece will be the Browns' triple overtime victory over Pat Ryan and the Jets.
Oh,
Ouch.
Wow.
okay.
That I like.
I just made that up, but it is still in my DVR.
You can find that on YouTube too. That is a good watch.
The game, the entire NFL films piece that we ran here like 7 years ago is still in my DVR.
Wow. And I don't like talking about Jets playoff losses or anything like that. Is that the Gastineau game you're talking about?
Yes.
The Gastineau personal foul game on 4th down.
Yeah.
Woohoo!
But also you have the Red Zone on DirecTV.
Red Zone on DirecTV.
Andrew's everywhere.
Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you.
Nice.
To 7:03.
All right. So that's it. Andrew Siciliano, thank you for joining us. I have a feeling you'll be back soon.
I'll wear makeup next time.
All right, men, let's keep rolling on, and let's start now in the Meadowlands with the New York Giants coming off really one of the more crushing losses in the regular season that you can remember, at least in terms of Week 1 against the Cowboys. Now they get the Falcons coming into their building, and the Falcons, under Dan Quinn, ya boy, Marc Sessler, squeak out a win over the Eagles. Will they do it again to the NFC East?
I don't have any doubt.
Whoa!
They're going to crush them. And I had to make a bold prediction. You have to do 12 of these if you work here a week. And
We did one.
well, whatever. But my bold prediction for this game was 3 touchdowns and 250 plus yards for Julio Jones. He's going to fry this
Whoa.
defense.
That would be a.
That's
big
bold.
He's done it before. He had 259 against the Packers last year.
It's like the overreaction bowl. Coach of the Year versus Worst Coach of the Century.
It's true. We are all leaning towards wow, it'd be surprising if that 0-1 team beat the 1-0 team. But Andrew's point about Browns-Titans, those are two pretty equal teams on paper. These are probably two pretty equal teams. But in the long run, I think Matt Ryan's a much better quarterback than Eli Manning. And I think the Falcons' defense should be better because, they got better defensive coaching. I'll leave it at that.
We do trust that New York can keep in a shootout, though. I think their offense can score points against this team.
Am I the only one that saw that the Falcons had no business winning that game?
They had business winning.
They absolutely should have lost that game.
You're talking about the minutia at the end of the game, but they absolutely scored points on
Great 2 quarters. If they played that game 10 times, the Eagles would have won that game 9 times. So I'm not ready to say, the Dan Quinn era is off and running, and now they're going to roll over a team on the road where the Falcons historically do not play well.
Quinn. If you have Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, you're going to be in a lot of games.
Oh, sure.
You shouldn't be in otherwise.
They've been a bad team with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones playing together as well, and I think I don't think this is a great team, and I think the Giants are okay, but I think they'll take care of business, especially after a bad loss. I think the Giants get to 1-1.
That's fair, dog.
That's fair, dog.
That's fair. Is Julio Jones even the best wide receiver in this game?
Not according to Wes.
Not in your world, no, but in my world, yes.
Two of my favorite players in the league.
Well, one of the reasons I didn't put Odell Beckham in my top 5 or 6, which you found blasphemous over the offseason, is just, let's see how he does it the next time around when teams are adjusting to him. We've seen how Julio Jones does that, and he does it at a Hall of Fame level. Right now, we have to see more of Odell Beckham. It was only 1 week, but that's what I want to see. And this is a great matchup against Desmond Trufant, one of the best young cornerbacks in the league.
And to your point in your prediction that you think Julio has a massive game, you got to think that Julio and Odell on some level can balance each other out. So I don't think it's even a huge advantage.
I think that New York can hang in a shootout, number one. I'm not talking 41-7. I could see this being 35-30 kind of deal.
I mean, the Falcons are at a point. Any road win is a magical thing. I mean,
wait, Mark, you picked the Giants.
2-0.
Did I?
Oh, no.
Here's the problem.
That's our favorite running game.
Here's the problem with they make us make these picks. They made 3 weeks ago. I'll make your pick.
How do you pick the Giants?
I have no memory.
It was literally last night.
You know what? I'll tell you what. I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it and take the Falcons because that's how my heart is.
Picks because you change it all the time.
They have to publish it on the site at 6 a.m. and I'm here. I don't even know what's happening.
So what changed between then and now?
We should get this.
I think that the Falcons are going to win this game.
TD, can you get this sponsored? Mark's Tiva flip-flop of the week.
Well, no, Greg, how about this? Greg can't do picks because it's too stressful for him and it brings up too many demons. It's not the case for me. I'll do them. I just don't remember what happened, and I'm sitting second to last place for a reason.
Mark is making a point. He doesn't love doing this, but he does it because it's part of his job. Why do you, just because you're the boss? You pulled the boss card, which you don't usually do.
I don't pull any boss card. I'm pulling a life card. I mean, who's going to make me not do it? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I'm talking to shadowy league figures to make you do this.
This is ridiculous. I took the Giants. Me and Wes. Listen, this sandwich wager that you and I have about who's going to win, we pick the same teams every week. We both won 11-5.
Not on purpose.
So cute.
Yeah, it's adorable.
You don't
Patra,
like our fist bump.
Huh?
You don't like our fist bump.
2 fist bumps in one podcast. That's
Patra and Orr both took the Falcons. I don't think they're going to flip flop. So you're going to join them.
Well, I don't like that operation, but I'll do it because I said I don't know who I am. I'll do whatever you want me to do. You tell me who to pick.
Did everybody see the New York Daily News photo of JPP's hand, by the way?
Yes.
What do you believe
Grizzly.
in?
I believe
you couldn't have been more strong about the Falcons to start this.
That was stunning. That one.
It was honestly the most decisive you've ever been about anything in your life, and now it's already turned around 2 minutes later.
JPP's hand.
Week 2.
I'm going to print out a photo of JPP's hand and give it to my son, Sweet Jack, every 4th of July. And from the time he's like 11 until he's 24.
That should do the trick.
Don't be like this guy.
He'll be on his psychiatrist chair later on. He always made me.
There will be other problems, but it won't be a fireworks.
I just wanted to be happy.
Wasn't that a gag on Arrested Development?
I'm a monster. All right, let's move on. The Houston Texans head to Charlotte to face the Panthers. The Texans already have a new starting quarterback, which is really absurd if you take a step back from the minutia of the day-to-day NFL, that they went through an entire offseason program and named a starter and a big hullabaloo and then turned around and changed their mind and made Mallet the guy. I don't know if you could really disagree with them. They go against Cam Newton and the Panthers. Mark, I might as well hit on this, too. You had a little bit of an issue with Josh Norman off a bold prediction last week. There are a couple of headlines. I did a Google search. Marc Sessler plus Josh Norman. First of all, tell us why this happened.
Well, because, it was another one of these bold predictions. Go write your big prediction. And I said that Blake Bortles, week 1, would come out and have his way with Carolina.
And you were wrong.
I was very
It
wrong.
happens. 2 headlines that were found on the internet. Josh Norman goes off on Marc Sessler. A headline.
Really? What
Also,
website is this?
This one's weird. That was a fan blog,
Nobody
like
reads
CarolinaBlitz.com or something. And then some fan forum. Josh Norman tells NFL.com's Marc Sessler the rules and regulations. I didn't even read it, but what does that mean?
Well, it is. He wrote me after the game, basically on Twitter, and said, "How about you sit down?" Like, he basically told me,
Whatever, Josh Norman.
You have to do these hot takes of the week every
Well, here's
week.
the thing. So I went, and hundreds of Panthers fans are retweeting it. I finally started blocking people like Wes. It was
Nice.
wonderful.
That's
But
good.
I went back and I said, I went back and watched his tape, every one of his snaps. He played a great game. So I tweeted back and I said, "Look, I'm not going to explain to him
Right.
how it operates on our side.
You
He
handled
could
it
care
well.
less." I wrote it back and said, "You played a great game." I explained what plays I thought he did.
Was he
a great job.
respectful enough to reply to you?
He retweeted that with a little thumbs up.
Oh,
picture.
okay.
So we're in a
all
good
worked
place.
out.
What is up with the Panthers fans? Because remember, I got buried back in January for calling Cam Newton insufferable on the sideline, and I was branded a racist or something. And I was all over blogs then.
They came at me a couple of weeks ago when I said after first preseason game that
Calm down,
all
Panthers
this talk
fans.
about Cam Newton fixing his footwork is garbage. He's throwing the same way he did last
He
year.
is very much the same player that he's always been, and I'm a big supporter in that. But nothing's changed, and he is their best short yardage runner. And I couldn't help but notice last year. Remember the evolution of Cam? It's like we're not going to have him like putting his body at risk anymore. Every time it's 3rd and 2, he is going up the middle now. I mean, they've given up trying to change that. He's just going to be that guy, and that's what he's good at.
What do we think about?
Mark, those are known as emojis, not thumbs up pictures.
All right. I know what an emoji is.
Area Millennial corrects Mark. What do we think about Ryan Mallett's chances against the Carolina defense, which flummoxed Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville
Don't
Jaguars?
ask me.
I'd like to know if Leak Kuechly and Star Latulele were playing.
Kuechly's got a concussion. What's going on with Starr?
He didn't play in the first game, and I believe he's questionable this week.
And so what, a foot injury?
I mean, Mallet
Some
showed
kind of
off
leg malady.
some serious gas. This would be the game if you could just have a contest. This is the best game possible of 2 quarterbacks standing flat-footed trying to throw the ball the farthest. Cam Newton and Ryan Mallett. They are the 2 guys that I would take in that
I
contest.
would rather watch that. probably.
Mallett's got a
I gotta be
hose.
honest with
man.
you.
I mean,
I don't buy that Mallet, like what he did against the Chiefs, because it was just sort of garbage time. And honestly, Bill O'Brien, and coming off of Hard Knocks, I really like Bill O'Brien, but he has been touted as a quarterback whisperer, a quarterback guru, and he has 2 bad quarterbacks, and we're going to see them again 100 times.
I'm starting to think the worst thing that could happen is to be called a quarterback whisperer.
Yeah.
It's fair.
It's like a curse.
Hold on. If Mallett's so great, why did Bill O'Brien pick
Right.
Hoyer over him?
Why? What are you going
That's
to
a
do?
good question.
I wanted to know if you're assigned to this game or any,
Oh, God, I hope not.
well, any Texans game.
You got to give it to him now.
Soon, you have a public rule, the Jonathan Grimes rule. That's your preseason rule. Once Grimes is in there,
I'm out.
You're checking out. I don't know if you saw it. Grimes was in like the first or second
He
series.
had a nice run, too.
He played pretty much throughout the game. It's a regular season game. You're a professional who takes his job seriously. What do you do?
Just follow the bullet and watch the game.
Okay.
Well, there is
Grimes rule
there is
out.
a minor chance that Arian Foster plays in this
No,
game.
I don't think so.
Did he rule it out?
He returned to practice, but it was really just to get his feet wet from what I
I thought
understand.
O'Brien said, who knows? But
would
Brian
be
earlier in the week
surprised,
said
yeah.
no. But
All right, so Mark, who did you take in this game? Just quizzing you.
in this game, I know I took the Panthers.
You're correct, as did I and Wes, and Connor and Patrick took the Texans. So there
By
you
the
go.
way, Ted Ginn, catch the ball.
Oh yeah.
Give me a break, dropping
we
a
know what's
touchdown.
happening now.
Well, that's the thing. They have Ted Ginn running red zone routes for them, and that's just there's nothing they can do because they don't have the right players on their team. But when he is running like in breaking routes in the red zone, Ted Ginn's not going to catch.
He's going to get blown up on the
He's not gonna
spot.
catch the
Let's check out the favorite division of football fans everywhere, the NFC South, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, after a humiliating loss to Marcus Mariota and the Titans, now travel to the Superdome to face the Saints, who couldn't hang with the Cardinals in Week 1. So 2 teams seeking to avoid, Greg, an 0-2 start. You are a Tulane graduate. You have a sneaky Saints fixation. Your thoughts?
Well, their secondary, whatever can go wrong is going wrong. They've now lost Raphael Bush, their safety, for the season. It was as bad a secondary or questionable a secondary as you could imagine, and now they've lost 2 or 3 key pieces. So if ever Jameis Winston was going to get off the schneid, have a nice bounce-back game, this Saints team did not rush the passer at all last week, and they have a bad secondary. This would be the week.
We used to talk about the Saints team and break down their home stats versus their away stats and how unbeatable they were in the Dome. They lost 5 straight.
That's
at home.
now.
I mean, that is gone. That whole team, that team that we used to talk about is gone in many respects.
This Saints team, though, I didn't think looked bad last week. They played the Cardinals very even. I watched that game and thought, these are 2 9-7 type of teams that look very even, and the only difference really was the red zone. You know, the Cardinals cashed in when they were in the red zone, and the Saints didn't.
My big takeaway from the Saints game is that they don't trust their wide receivers. That Marcus Colston, again, looks old.
What about Willie Snead?
Willie Snead had 1 play for 63 yards, didn't do anything else. Brandon Coleman, they didn't like throwing to him that much. And Patrick Peterson, except for 130-yard, perfectly placed over-the-shoulder connection from Breeze to Cooks, Patrick Peterson shut Cooks down. And I think Cooks is going to have issues with bigger cornerbacks like that. But they ran almost everything through their running backs.
I think they're going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
And they're getting C.J. Spiller back this week. So you got Spiller, Ingram, and Robinson.
Maybe.
Spiller had a message. We think C.J. Spiller will be back this week. He said, I ain't into surprises. I don't surprise nobody. I want you to see me coming full speed. It ain't Halloween, baby. Trick or treat. I'm coming full speed at you. Trust me. You know when I'll.
What are you
So
talking
he's
about?
been, doing MDMA basically.
I think bad
What
news.
is he talking about?
Bad news for Ingram fantasy owners. Spiller's getting all those screens and wheel routes.
Yeah.
Once he gets
How about Jarvis Bird arriving to save the day in the Saints secondary?
Well, I'll believe it when I see it.
Jairus Byard.
You just wanted this.
Jairus.
Hey, Wes knows what I'm doing.
Byard.
Wes knows what the old Zeuser's up to.
You know what I'm up to?
What?
Well, what's more likely?
Ooh.
That's what I call a transition.
Are we? Is that where we are?
Let's just do it.
We're not there yet.
Premature
Wes,
transition.
he was so on fire.
Oh no.
All right. Oh well. We got one more game before we get to that, West. But that was nice. The San Diego Chargers 1-0, really nice comeback win over the Lions in Week 1. Faced the Bengals, who look great against a putrid Raiders team. So they have their home opener now, Wes. And I'll start with you on this because, listen, I'm not going to go crazy about that offense looking awesome against the Raiders. Even if they jumped out to a 33-0 lead, the defense looked good too. But if they take care of business against a good Chargers team, then maybe they get out to maybe they win next week too. Where are you at on the peace scale when it comes to Westivus, your favorite holiday by which the Cincinnati Bengals fail in the first round of the playoffs? You drink
It happens.
copious
It happens
amount
every
of
year, and I
alcohol.
count on it. Yeah. Copious alcohol, and I count on this as one of my favorite weekends of the year because the Bengals are going to lose. Or you used to know.
I was going to say, so if 0 is your pants are totally dry, you got your pants on, your underpants, and you wouldn't be nervous being out in public. 10, your underpants are soaked. You got to go get some new underpants. Even your pants have been compromised. You got to put them in the wash or throw them out. Where are you fitting in?
You're potty training some kids. You're saying, just try to hold that pee while you sleep for 12 straight hours overnight. See how that works out for you, kid. How do kids even learn that? I don't understand.
I'm asking Wes a question, Greg. Where are you on the scale?
He's just laughing.
I'm at on a 7 right now.
Whoa!
And I know it's only one game
pants
against
are
the
damn.
Raiders, but this is more about the Ravens and the Steelers. The Bengals, clearly to me, I don't know why we slept on them in the preseason and all of our predictions. The Bengals have, what are the holes on their roster? The Ravens have huge
Quarterback.
All right, that's fair. The Ravens have no playmakers on offense, and the Steelers don't have a defense. The Bengals, to me, are a much more well-rounded, solid team.
I'll tell you what happened. Andy Dalton not being a favorite of this group has, on some levels, blinded us a little bit. Because he's not terrible. He's okay.
Well,
he's the middle of the room.
right.
He's okay in games where they don't matter.
That's right. He's done this before.
If it's not on
games
national
matter,
TV
though.
or in the playoffs, he'll be
Yes,
fine.
but to say these games don't matter is wrong too.
All right.
This team could easily win 11 games, and he could thrive statistically with this team. I don't know what happens.
But
in
by the
January.
way, none of us are going to say Andy Dalton can't do that because that's what's been happening. And statistically, he's had some good seasons. Much better than some quarterbacks.
Right, but none of us picked him to make the playoffs.
Well, what you guys are forgetting is Westivus isn't the only holiday. There's a new holiday every week 1. It's called Raiders Shoshana. Work with me. Raiders play a
With you.
team And you think, you start thinking about the team they played in week 1 very differently.
Did the Jets play them
last year?
in week
Jets
one?
Raiders, week 1. We all put them in the playoffs after this game. This year on Raiders, Shoshana, I don't know. I might have to work on that.
No, you do. It's not bad, though.
I tried for something.
Workshop that.
Suddenly, it's got West thinking the Bengals are so great. They just played the Raiders.
Again, like I said, more about the Ravens and Steelers, and frankly, who's the dominant team in the AFC?
No, you're
isn't
right.
the Patriots.
That's changing. You're right.
There isn't one, unless the Patriots get a secondary or Tyrod Taylor is for real.
And if the Steelers defense, they put it together at some point during the season.
That's not happening.
Dalton is like 3 very acceptable games, then an absolute abject disaster where we're like, oh, wait, what are we talking about? He stinks. And it's happened to fall every January. Maybe you get a different one this January. You can still go drink. You just won't get the same result.
Wes is going to drink either way.
Well, isn't this a week we learn a lot about them because they're going up a secondary we've been talking up
You've
a
been
lot.
honking about the Chargers
I didn't say it
secondary.
in the offseason. They look good. They look good last week. Jason Verrett, Brandon Flowers. You got Eric Weddle. This is a tough matchup for Dalton and everyone. I think they're the best looking cornerback group. Well, actually, Stephon Gilmore and Ronald Darby had about a great.
You know what I want to see?
That was 1 week.
I want to see what Keenan Allen does for an encore.
Oh, my God.
15 for 166 in the opener. He's got a nice challenge here. A nice. How about this? Over/under time, Greg. Keenan Allen, 8 catches.
I'm sorry, I'm not doing over-unders this year. I'm going under. I'm going under. It's a joke.
8 receptions, under 80 yards.
I'll go over.
1 touchdown.
Can I have a big play?
I'll go push.
6 for 90.
All he does is run crossing routes all game.
6 for 90.
All right, we all.
Hold on.
Yes.
Do you mind if I give a little love
do not
to
mind.
our friend Daniel Jeremiah of Move the Sticks?
All right, go ahead.
He pointed out a few weeks ago, preseason gem, Kyle Emanuel, 5th-round pick for the Chargers. Sneaky defensive rookie of the year candidate as a 5th-round pick. Had an interception and sack in the opener and had 2 sacks in the preseason. This guy's starting for them and looks good.
Well, by the way, talk about a turnaround. We all took the Bengals, so all of a sudden we're all in on the Bengals. Let's keep moving.
Hold on, what's more likely?
What's more likely?
Oh, Wes, now you stepped on the transition.
I got to leave the transitions to you.
Listen, you had a promising previous show. This one's been rocky, a little up and down, but I still believe in you. Go ahead.
That was hubris on my end. What's more likely? Julio Jones is held under 100 yards or Odell Beckham Jr. goes over 100 yards?
Oh, I know what I think.
Well, you said 250 yards. For
Odell is going over 100 on this defense.
Odell is?
Yes. Julio Jones is not going to be held under 100. No way.
Well, you got to pick one or the other. You picked both.
You picked Julio Jones as
More
getting
likely.
250
More
yards.
likely, much more likely that Odell gets over 100.
Gotcha.
You just said Julio Jones is going to have 250 yards.
It said under for Julio.
The under.
Jones.
I
Right,
thought.
what's more
I
likely?
know.
So it's much less likely. if
Mark's
I
on
take
target here. Mark has
Exactly.
got it. He's okay.
The boss is losing his mind. He's not making
I'm
picks.
losing
He's
it
all
too.
over the map.
ODB,
I
by
apologize.
the way, after being really shut down against the Cowboys, I was stunned by that. He's going to go off in this game. This is going to be 174 yards, 9 catch, 2 touchdown, vintage 2014 ODB. That's more likely.
I
All
think it's
this
more
happens.
likely that Julio Jones is under 100 yards. I mean, he's under 100 yards half the games he's ever played, if not more, I would guess.
The pragmatist Joe.
He's
Wait,
going
but
up
what
against,
about-
He's going up against Prince Amukamara and Dominic Rogers-Marty. The only good things about that defense, I'm just saying it's more likely.
It's not, though, because what Odell Beckham has he been
I think
over
Odell
100
Beckham
yards?
goes
Like,
over 100
I
almost
think
every
Odell-
game.
I think Odell Beckham will be fine in his life, in his career, and this week against the Falcons.
So
I think he'll be fine.
You're
going
picking both.
No, I totally messed
This
it
one's
up
tricky.
before. You're right. It is confusing. Whoever wrote it. It's more likely Julio's going under.
All right, there we go. Let's move on now to our last 3 games of our preview special, our endless preview special. The Detroit Lions head to Minnesota to face off against the Vikings. And, here's a game where the Detroit Lions, and I want to see Matthew Stafford, how he looks in this game. That was one of the games I covered on Sunday where he didn't look the same after he got hit on the elbow. He says he's fine.
Because
He's
Melvin
playing.
Ingram knocked him out.
Yeah, it was a nasty shot. And the Vikings, now this is a big game for the Vikings because they went from everybody's darling of the offseason, laying an egg on Monday night. Okay, that's fine. That could happen. But if you don't take care of business at home in week 2, we might all have this wrong.
Well, it's a big game for both teams. This is an 11-win team from a year ago. This is the best they're coming off the best Detroit Lions season in 25 years, something crazy like that. So they need to get a win in the division. It's a very intriguing game, and I want to see if Adrian Peterson, the Adrian Peterson we know, with a guy, maybe get more than 10 touches, shows up in this game.
I know we like to talk about the early season, like everything changes, it don't take too much stock in it, but the numbers for 0-2 teams getting into the playoffs are rough. And if you start in this division 0-2, and one of those is against a division opponent, you got your back against the wall. And Minnesota, absolutely, I thought Teddy Bridgewater, you cannot start the season the way he did against San Francisco after all the hype. He's high up in our making the leap. You got to bounce back this week, but Detroit is a good defense.
No, it's a good matchup because DeAndre Levy hasn't played this week. He hasn't practiced this week. And last week, Phil Rivers had basically one of the greatest games of all time for throwing 3-yard passes. He set records he had the most yards in the league and the fewest yards in the air per pass. It was just all crossing routes to Keenan Allen, screens to Stevie Johnson, and the middle of the defense was wide open without DeAndre Levy.
Are we a little? You said the Lions have a good defense. They had a very good defense last year, but that was a troubling week 1 by that defense, and they obviously weren't able to scheme and game plan to find a way to shut that off.
They were.
So I'm
that
a
was
little
a tale
nervous
of two
about that.
halves. They were a dominant defense in the first half, and then in that heat with Phillip Rivers throwing short passes.
Rivers took him down the field at the end of the first half too, and threw a bad pass to bail out the Lions.
Well, the Lions picked it off. You got to give them credit for that.
So you're not giving up on the Lions.
I'm not giving up on the Lions. Basically, 2 of the top 10 defensive players in the league were Ndamukong Suh and DeAndre Levy. They didn't have either of them in the first game. So let's see if they get Levy back.
Who would you rather have calling plays for you? Mike McCoy, Norv Turner?
Norv Turner.
Mike McCoy, I think one thing, this guy has proven to be a great play caller.
I think they're both great.
I mean, it's Frank Reich, too. It's Phillip Rivers. That's the main guy.
You know why? Because Peyton Manning's not done. He's playing quarterback for the Chargers.
What?
Peyton Manning? Phillip Rivers is doing his Peyton Manning impression.
Interesting. Frank Reich love.
You want to know who picked who here?
I don't really care.
Well, no, you don't care.
I would take the Lions.
Don't care?
When I'm looking at these, I think, well, that's who I would take.
Wes, you have a hero pick. No, sorry, you don't. You would have had a hero pick. You took the Lions. The rest of us think the Vikings are going to get on track at home.
The fan consensus weekly pick'em also takes the Lions. A rare hero pick with the fan consensus. By the way, we have a league out there around the NFL, and you can compete against the other 5 guys.
Greg.
And probably beat me. I'm 1-0.
Stay out of it, man.
Yeah, I'm just saying. They should join the league.
What do you mean you're 1-0? You don't even pick games.
Well, I had to just for it to show up so I could help out. I had to pick one game.
Make up your mind.
Speaking of the Lions, and more specifically, Kevin Patra coming at you. This tweet from Patra, if you're watching on YouTube, yo, at Dan Hanzus, looky what I spent my day off building. Hashtag in-season workouts. Hashtag no excuses. Hashtag cliche. Hashtag and then the photo is in what looks like some type of Chicago apartment project. It is a multiple
he doesn't live in the project.
dumbbells. He has what appears to be a rack where you can do bench press. Is that what that is?
What is so Patra's view from his window is just like a 1970s tenement.
Is that a bench press rack?
I kind of miss
it. It is. It's an impressive setup. The point being, Patra, who I have what was that? That's a pull-up bar. There's a lot cooking there. The point is, I have long been on record that Patra's body is sick, great torso, and everything. It's only going to get better with this.
Hashtag no days off, baby. No days off.
I like that he's doing it
Patra
too.
basically pulled a TD and put his workouts on social media.
Right, and he's also gonna put it out there for the thousands of people that can see into his window. You know, he's just gonna put up the blind.
Oh, completely.
Hey
nude.
everyone, it's the Patra Show.
Look, it's an NFL blogger lifting weights.
You know why he's working out
Line
with
up.
his team? I called him basically a taller Greg.
Ooh, what is that?
What does that mean?
That was like a month ago when you were complimenting his body. I said he's basically a taller Greg.
Greg, what do you think about that?
That sounds like one of the best compliments you could give a guy.
All right, let's move on. The Baltimore Ravens lost Terrell Suggs last week, lost to the Broncos last week. Here's the good news. They get to go to Oakland, the Black Hole, or at least we think maybe you want to give the Raiders a benefit of the doubt. They just weren't ready. They hit a buzzsaw. The Cincinnati Bengals, one of the great teams of all time, came into their building and wiped them out. I'm joking about the Bengals, but maybe, Mark, can we say the Raiders have a chance in this game, or are we just going to assume again that the Raiders are going to go 2-14 or 3-13? Any hope?
Well, I think the difference between this game and last game is Baltimore is pretty barren of weapons. And you're playing a pretty good pass rush in Oakland. John Harbaugh called it one of the best in the league. That felt like Oak speak to me. But Flacco got waxed last week a couple times against an absolutely good pass rush in Denver. And if you can get to him again, listen, they really didn't have a way out of that. Their offense just had nowhere to go with the ball.
The only good thing that Joe Flacco does, well, the best thing that Joe Flacco does is throw it deep and throw mid-range passes. And they were too afraid that they couldn't protect him last week to even try it, or that's just not what they're going to do. Throw some passes down the field.
How do you, not to get off topic, but I know it's hard to keep guys sometimes, but how do you let Torrey Smith go out of the building?
Well, how about while you're in the
franchise quarterback?
Exactly. If you're in the Bay Area, get Torrey Smith and Anquan Bolden and bring them back on the plane.
Rashad Berriman is supposed to replace him. It's not their fault that he developed a knee injury in August.
But still, even that, you're hoping that immediately that guy becomes that player. I don't know, just certain
Ozzie Newsome's a really good general manager.
I think I'm a better GM.
He wanted to put that money somewhere else.
Who has a better receiving core now, Cleveland or Baltimore, without Perriman?
By the way, Torrey Smith had, 20 yards in the opener?
I would take Baltimore because Steve Smith is at least a league average starter, and the Browns don't have one. But the Ravens, to your point, are playing Marlon Brown and Campanaro and Kamara Aiken and Buck Allen looking okay at running back. It's not a good offense. This is a winnable game.
Unfortunately, they play against a team that stinks.
That's right.
They signed Taylor Mays this week to start for them.
Derek Carr, it sounds like Derek Carr will return for this game.
Is that good?
I don't think it. I think at least if you're the Raiders, you want him out there as much as you can, obviously. Although I do like McCloin.
McCloin's one of those guys that has a weird fan club. Every once in a while, a backup gets that, and it seems like people are high on him.
Well, he's had a couple
We should see the rate of big plays.
If Dan doesn't like young starting quarterbacks, he certainly doesn't like young backups. So
for all the people making excuses for Carr for having bad wide receivers, McGloin's rate of big plays is astronomically higher than Derek Carr's.
We all took the Raiders. Stunner. Just kidding. The Raiders stink. We all took the Ravens.
Everyone, huh?
Sorry, Blackwell. I honestly do. I feel for that fan base because they're stuck with another bad team, it looks like.
I'm with you.
Finally, the Miami Dolphins.
Finishing strong.
Yeah, finishing strong. The Miami Dolphins, who got the job done in Week 1, and underwhelming of any of the AFC East teams that won in Week 1. I thought the Dolphins showed me the least, but whatever. The Jacksonville Jaguars now are on their schedule, so look at that nice little start here. You get the Redskins and the Jaguars back-to-back weeks, and listen. Maybe Blake Bortles shows us something. Interesting line before I throw the game to you guys. Interesting line from Blake Bortles, who seems a little frustrated right now. A reporter asked him about the fans saying that they need to improve their play calling, and his response was, I don't know. It's like a kindergartner saying something to a college kid.
Well, he's right.
Yeah, he's right.
He's right, but
I have no problem with that statement.
It's not going to play well with. It's not going to play well, but he's correct.
Great quote.
He's not wrong.
Well, kindergartners are cute too. I mean, that's a likable age, likable.
Well, they're idiots too. Kids are stupid.
Well, yeah, they're developing. I don't know. Idiots is the correct word.
They're beautiful. They're beautiful humans, but there's just barely anything going on.
They don't know.
That's what he's saying.
Right. It's an excellent analogy.
Well,
you just don't say it. You're the face of the franchise.
I'm glad he said it.
I like Blake Bortles.
Well, you wouldn't run into trouble with the press, Wes.
You definitely would run into trouble.
I wouldn't care. I'd tell them what they are.
The Blake Bortles play they should be calling is, how about don't throw it 10 yards over the receiver's head this week? When I like Blake Bortles, but when Blake Bortles has that thing that worries me, which some quarterbacks never, it's like I don't think you can solve that. When Blake Bortles misses, he misses by a ton. Like he had 5 or 6 throws that he's not trying to throw away that he missed by 10, 15 yards last week. And that happens a lot. And I like Blake Bortles. He did a lot of good things last week too. But it's like, what is happening on those throws? Are there any great quarterbacks ever that have that trait?
You know what worries me? He's been sacked 4 more times in 8 straight games. He's been playing behind for 2 years in a row, one of the worst lines. And how do you develop a young quarterback when you can't stay on your feet? I mean, he's getting crushed back there half the time.
I thought he looked better in his numbers, but I also fell asleep watching this game.
I will say this. There's no more Titans. They're the Titans. I'm going to say this. If the Jaguars don't start doing something, they will officially, in my eyes, become the Jacksonville who? That's who they will be.
Wait, you're not wrong because
Dr. Seuss.
I will refuse to respect them as a entity in the NFL if they don't do something very soon.
we have given them the benefit of the doubt in many ways. In many ways, and I stumbled over it a couple times because I want them to succeed. I like the idea of that organization turning
You
around.
love that front office. You love the coach.
I do. I like the coach, but it's like you
love the fullback?
This doesn't. You don't get 3 or 4 years to win 4 games every season. They've got to go.
Gerhardt
They've done
Yes,
Toby
I know.
They've done a pretty long rope.
They've got a very long
Hey,
rope with a
Jack, do
patient
something.
owner.
Do something.
And they are. They're going to do something this week. I think they'll find a way to avoid an 0-2 start here.
The Jaguars?
Yeah, why not? I think also Mark's got to be careful because he is going over to London. We didn't even talk about this, but he is going to go cover these Jaguars. So you want to make sure they're a nice, saucy, 4-3 Jaguars team.
I would like that.
And yet you picked the Dolphins in this game.
Well, because I believe the
nobody in that
Dolphins will win this
organization.
game.
Connor Orr is the only one who took the Jaguars.
By the way, if the Jaguars lose this game, you're going to be hearing a lot of talk like we just had about this group of Jaguars because their next 2 games are at Colts, at Patriots. I'm not saying that there's no way they win either one of those games. That's a tough road.
They better
to
win
be
this
staring
game.
at 0-4.
All right, one more time, TD.
What's more likely?
All right, what's more likely? This was authored for me, so I'm running it.
Oh,
Okay,
come on,
listen.
just
Whatever, all right.
Jerk.
All right. What's more likely? 1, Dolphins versus Jaguars leads NFL Game Day final because it's so sexy, or Jay Cutler gets carried off the field because he's so sexy.
It's going to be like an overtime thriller for Dolphins Jaguars because I think the teammates would drop Jay Cutler if they were trying to carry him off the field.
I think it's more likely that Jay Cutler gets carried off. And it
By
has
who?
nothing to do with his looks.
By the fans?
Well, when he delivers a beautiful last-minute drive, he's good for one every year where he just wows you with his arm and the team gets crazy. They're 1-1. They got a home win in John Fox
Who's
era.
carrying a quarterback off the field in week 2?
Do you remember when
That would be awesome, though.
Remember when Lance
fun,
Briggs
but-
said on our air that he wanted to punch Jay Cutler?
How about maybe one of those things where you hug the guy and you kind of lift him up a little just for a second? Does that count?
I don't know. I think probably 15 games would need to lose feed for Dolphins Jags to lead game day. I mean, they didn't
What
have
would
no
have to
footage
happen?
of those.
There's literally no chance that game would ever.
No, I hate to
lead.
say it. There is. If something terrible happened, which
Don't
say
it.
That's
Don't say it.
That's the only way.
Don't say it.
No, nothing. I don't mean anything in
like a
particular.
Batman Steelers Heinz Field type scenario.
Or the game got canceled for weather. That would maybe lead it, something like that. I don't know.
But not for the game.
Who's going to win this game?
I just told you the Jags are.
Listen, I don't care, Greg.
Okay.
It's just not.
All
it's
right.
not right for you to then
That's
be
fair.
picking games
That's
and
fair.
then not be picking
That's
games.
fair.
It's totally unfair. All right, that's it for the Thursday preview, Friday preview ahead of the big week 2. We will be back, of course, on Sunday night, recapping all the Sunday games. And how exciting is that? Right?
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Very exciting.
Let's do it a couple days
Until
ago.
then, this is Dan Hanzus signing off for Quiet Storm, the mailman, the boss, and TD behind the glass. Until then.